Alright, my name is Dennis Mondo. Thank you so much for joining us on Friday Briefing. This is where we talk about politics, arts and culture, business and technology, and in the headlines. Right, and in our main story, depression is one of the 4 major causes of diseases and disability across the world, and majorly in university students it's extremely prevalent and is a widespread problem across the globe. Our senior reporter Philip Kipele has more details on depression.
Depressive disorder is different from any sadness that comes from disappointment or sorrow. The word disorder means an abnormal physical or mental condition that patients suffering from experience a longer state of sadness than normal to the point that it disrupts their daily normal activities. Depression can come from many causes, like genetics and chemical imbalance in the brain, but it's most often triggered by traumatic events like the loss of a loved one or a personal failure. Symptoms of depression range from insomnia, inability to focus, lack of appetite, complete loss of interest, a constant feeling of anxiety, restlessness or complete lack of motivation, fatigue, easily decreased energy, feelings of worthlessness and disappointment in oneself, lack of concentration, focus, memory retention, and inability to make decisions are all factors that one should be very careful with once they start experiencing, as they may mean that one is suffering from depressive disorder. If not taken care of, these symptoms could lead to suicidal thoughts, which would eventually lead to someone actually doing the unthinkable. Just because someone is suffering from depression, it doesn't mean that they are weak, give up easily, or are unwilling to tackle a problem. But due to the illness that has occurred to their mental state, it means that they are not ready to face up to many issues that occur in their lives. It is like being in a pitch dark room, and no matter where they turn, they just can't seem to see an exit. With proper help and support from peers and friends, it's like there's a helping hand in turning on the light, which guides them in solving their problems on their own and returning to their regular lives. Many of you are probably wondering if you fall into this category too. Let's see if within the last 2 weeks you have experienced any of the symptoms that I have mentioned above. Then you should probably seek medical attention. Speaking of which, seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist isn't unusual or something that one should be afraid of. It is an incorrect assumption that those who seek mental health professionals are insane. In reality, those who are suffering from stress or complex issues with no one to confide in can also consult a psychiatrist or psychologist. Mental disorders are like physical disorders that require specific consultation. It is the same that once your tooth aches, you seek the help of a dentist, or once your knees hurt, you seek the help of an orthopedist. Then once you have a mental issue, you should seek the help of a psychologist. So be vigilant and take care of your mental health, as we do not want to have an increase on these cases of depression as there have been now. My name is Philip Kipele.
We're joined by specialists from across the globe. We're going to be discussing depression, the cause of depression among university students. We have Mabel Odima, a psychiatrist, who's joining us today. We have Philip Kipele, of course, our senior reporter, who had the package that you've just seen, and we have Shem Wanyama, the chairman of DCC3. How are you doing this morning? All right, let's get into it, Miss Mabel Odima. You could explain to us and our viewers in a brief what depression is.
Depression is a state of dejection a person feels. It's an attack on the spirit, soul and mind because of a sad situation that has happened in somebody's life. And because of lack of intervention, the person continues to be sad, very sad for a long time. Yes.
Okay, and how do you think we as Africans take serious on the topic of depression?
Africans with depression is a wider concept in the mental health issues. Africans have not been easy on depression and mental health issues because of the stigma that comes from the same source. So depression is one of them that has suffered lack of attention both in the family and the extended family systems.
All right, let's move a bit to the chairman of DCC3, Mr. Shem Wanyama, who has is going to be giving us in detail what he thinks of DCC3 in terms of helping university students in struggling with depression and mental illness and such things.
DCC3 stands for Daystar Compassionate Care Center. This is a center where we guide and counsel students and also help people who are facing behavior challenges and maybe people who are facing mental issues as well.
I had asked Miss Mabel Odima on how we as Africans take on the topic of depression. Is it a white people disease? Is it taken seriously in Africa? Do us as Africans take it seriously?
Yeah, we do take depression issues seriously because we have a number of cases whereby we've had students or maybe people who take away their lives. Maybe that is suicide because they cannot access or afford 1, 2, 3 things. So people feel like, and we also had fathers who maybe slaughter their wives and their children and then maybe kill themselves or maybe go to the station to surrender themselves. So depression is a real issue in Africa. Yeah.
Mabel, what do you think on the notion? I've asked Ms. Wanyama this question. I would like you to give us your opinion. What do you think of the notion that depression is a white people disease?
It's not a white people's disease. It's just because that it's strange and we have not given the attention that it deserves. That's why we want to dub it white man disease. It's a common disease and has been on for a long time among the young, among children, among old people too.
All right. Education system. Do you think the Kenyan education system takes serious on the topic of depression? How are matters handled by the government in terms of depression in higher learning institutions?
The educational system was just also like the African system, where depression, if you keep quiet, if you are moody, you are punished, you are disciplined. So it has taken a long time for us to capture a child or a student or a person who could be showing symptoms of depression. By the way, depression occurs from unmanaged stress. If stress was managed in good time, if someone was able to diagnose that this person is not coping well with stress, then they'll be captured in time before depression sets in. So when people are stressed and people don't notice, the person now slowly sneaks into depression, which is a very serious medical condition and can cause dropout of school, inability to function, and if the educational system is not sensitive, they continue punishing the sick.
All right, Mr. Shem Wanyama, how many cases of depression do you get, let's say, in a semester or in a week, in a month? Give us in detail a percentage and how do you handle it as an organization?
We've received quite a number of cases, and this in the university setting. Some of the cases we've received are mostly leaning on the side of peer influence and social media struggles. Social media struggles in such a way that we have people who try, or students who try to fit into a certain social class, maybe on Instagram, social media, maybe they're posting pictures, they want that online presence, but they cannot reach to that point. And then again, we've had maybe financial stabilities. People come from different backgrounds, but for you, you want to fit in a certain social class, or maybe in a certain class whereby we have this group of students who are maybe privileged, and you know very well you are less privileged, but you struggle, do the best you can to fit into this group. But you know, at the end of it, it doesn't end well. So another thing has been peer pressure in such a way that in terms of using drugs or maybe abusing drugs and all that. So you want to do partying, clubbing, raving, and also abusing drugs, in the sense that you want to show your peers that you understand these things and you are not left behind in these things. out of 100 is 65%.
Which is getting good grades and whatnot. You have given us a big percentage in terms of the estimation of the people who come for counseling who are dealing with depression as causes of other misappropriateness behaviors. That is a big number that you've talked about. How is it challenging in terms of the organization?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but before this center was introduced, there was that need. We saw a need. We saw students struggling, but there was no center. There was no place whereby students can be heard or listened to and maybe be helped and all that. But now DC3 coming in place, I can say it has really played a big role. And I know there are people or students out there who are still, I've just given an estimate of 65%, but that is also not the real picture, exact number, the real picture of what is happening out there. I know maybe we have more than that, but now for those who have managed to come, we've really been taking them through lessons, guiding and counseling lessons, mentorship programs. We've been training them. We've been giving them even materials to go read by themselves and research. Do more research maybe and how they can be helped. But we are not stopping at that, because if we feel that you live in a specific hostel, or maybe whether in off campus or up school, we attach someone with you. We attach a friend with you, so that this person can be working with you. This person can be mentoring you bit by bit, because coming here won't help that much. You will come here, we'll take you through the process. But again, if we leave you like that, maybe you fall vulnerable, maybe to go back and do those things. So we attach a friend or a partner who will maybe be following up and helping you. So it's a challenge, yes, but we've been trying to manage the situation.
Mr. Wanyama,
yes.
In an instance where someone is not willing to talk about their problems, talk about the situation, dealing with depression, how do you deal with that? A person you don't know, people who are going through these things, they want someone to talk to, but they're not in a position to actually move forward and take that step. How do you deal with that?
Sometimes we do our personal or maybe general assessment in such a way that most of the officials who work in DC3, we have counselors who are employed by DESTA, and we have also students who are officials who work in DC3, and also we have DC3 members. Sometimes these members who are students and officials who are students help us to identify the people who are going through these things, and give us information, and maybe plus their contact numbers. So we personally look for them, maybe through calling, through emailing, or maybe in person. And again, we have people who are recommended to us. Maybe students who are members and officials recommend them to us, and or advise them to come to us and seek this kind of help.
All right, we'll switch up to our senior reporter, Mr. Philip Kipele, who did the reporter's package, rather the introduction that we had earlier on the show. Mr. Philip Kipele, how are you doing this morning? Again, you're on the other side of our studios. We are so glad to be having you today. I wanted to ask you on your experience, rather, when you were doing your research on depression.
First of all, I think depression is something that a lot of people generally don't understand, especially in an African context, unfortunately, where a lot of people who do not refer to such problems as to such problems as white people problems, as problems that shouldn't be experienced, because the African baseline, the African setting, is basically centered around some very few elements, for which some don't include psychological care, because we don't really, once you're healthy physically, you have had enough food to eat, you don't really think that you go the extra mile to think about the other factors that could be, a mess in your life. So it was an interesting experience, learning how depression is a huge problem that people ignore, and yet at the same time one that very few people understand or have even bothered to understand.
Okay. You look very emotional talking about this. How has this experience impacted you as a human being, as a reporter, as a person who wants to deliver the message, these types of message to the world?
I think the emotional bit comes in, I think, reminiscing on some of the aspects of the entire feature, because it wasn't, as I've mentioned, it's not really something as light. It's not like sports, where you'd expect someone to be super sporty about it. It's not also as like entertainment, where you'd expect people to be entertained. It's something that a lot of people, again, don't really I, understanding the depth for me was the turning point. Understanding that this is a problem that most people actually face and they don't know that they're facing. Understanding that it's a problem that is often, looked over as not so important. And yet, psychological care is important. All those people we see in Madare Mental Hospital didn't get there, just like that. They were normal, maybe, once upon a time. And maybe because of one or two issues completely let themselves go. Am I emotional now? Maybe, but then I wouldn't say that it may be partly because of that, but also probably because of other personal issues. Who knows? Yeah, probably.
Right, we have talked about the Kenyan education system in broad with our guests, and we'd like to ask you, do you think it's mandatory that the Kenyan education system deals with depression in our senior universities, in the primary setting, in the high school setting? How do you think the education system can deal with such cases?
Oh, absolutely. What is the education system in Kenya? Again, some of the reasons, funny enough, some of the minor reasons why someone would actually succumb to depression is not subscribing to the best of anything, really. And I feel like the education system becomes a huge factor, especially in dealing with this, because we subscribe to a system which doesn't really deal with mental health, wellness, and all these other factors, except for some few instances where it's actually taught. But it's given a very myopic feel compared to the other factors, because we always think that there are other more important things, like success and how to achieve success, which is it's kind of true. But I believe for you to attain success, rather, you need to have a certain state of mind. You need to be in a certain state of mind, which is something that a lot of people don't put into consideration. So I do think that the education system does need to incorporate so many of these things or factors or elements or aspects that have to do with depression, that have to do with reasons why people succumb to depression, that have to do with how to deal with depression, how to deal with pressure, how to deal with simple issues such as burnout, which actually stem from factors related to education. So I feel that that is a certain section where we have failed miserably, especially here in Africa, because as I've mentioned, ignorance becomes the mega cause of depression all round. Yes.
Alright, for those who've been joining us, thank you so much. We are going to be reading some of your tweets and texts that you've been sending us concerning depression in high learning institutions, and we're going to be reading that in a few, but before that, let's take a break. Alright, that's all we had for you today. Thank you so much for joining us on Friday Brief. My name is Dennis Mondo. Till next time, same place, same time. Have a nice weekend.